3 months ago, my ex Kevin called me ghetto trash when he dumped me for his boss's daughter. Last night, he invited me to his promotion party, probably to show everyone how much better his life is now. He had no idea I'd roll up in a Bentley with a billionaire. If you've ever been underestimated or counted out, this story is for you. Make sure to like this video and subscribe, because you're going to want to hear how this plays out. Trust me, the ending will blow your mind. My name is Alicia Thompson, and I want to tell you about the night that changed everything. But first, let me take you back to where it all started, because you need to understand just how low I was before I could rise this high. 3 months ago, I thought I had it all figured out. I was 28, working 2 jobs while finishing my MBA, and dating Kevin Mitchell, a man I thought I'd spend the rest of my life with. We'd been together for 2 years, and while things weren't perfect, I believed we were building something real together. I should have known better when he started making comments about my background, my clothes, the way I spoke when I got excited. But love makes you blind to red flags, doesn't it? The night Kevin broke up with me is burned into my memory forever. We were sitting in his fancy downtown apartment, the one his daddy helped him pay for, and he looked at me with these cold eyes I'd never seen before. "Alicia," he said, not even bothering to turn off the basketball game, "this isn't working anymore. We're just from different worlds." I remember laughing because I thought he was joking. "What are you talking about? We've been together for 2 years, Kevin. We talk about getting married all the time." That's when his mask really came off. He stood up, straightened his tie, like he was in a business meeting, and said words that still echo in my head. "Look at yourself, Alicia. Look at where you come from. You're ghetto trash trying to clean yourself up, but it shows." My boss introduced me to his daughter, Vanessa, last week, and she's what I need in my life. Someone who can actually help my career, instead of holding it back. I sat there stunned, watching this man I loved tear me apart piece by piece. "You think I'm holding you back? I work 16-hour days to pay for school so I can build a better life. I cook for you, support your dreams, listen to you complain about work every single night. And that's the problem," he said, actually rolling his eyes. "You don't get it. In my world, women don't work themselves to death. They enhance their man's image. They come from the right families, know the right people. Vanessa's father owns half the commercial real estate in this city. What does your family bring to the table? Food stamps and government housing." The cruelest part wasn't just the words. It was how easily he said them, like he'd been thinking this for months and was relieved to finally let it out. I gathered what little dignity I had left, grabbed my purse, and walked toward his door. But Kevin wasn't done destroying me yet. "You'll never be on my level, Alicia," he called after me. "You can get all the degrees you want, but you'll always be that poor girl from the projects trying to fake her way into a world she doesn't belong in." I didn't cry until I got to my car. Then I sobbed for 20 minutes in his parking garage, feeling like everything I'd worked for meant nothing. Within a week, I couldn't afford my apartment anymore without his help with the bills, something I hadn't even realized he was doing. I had to move back in with my mama in the same neighborhood Kevin had just called ghetto, the same place I'd been trying so hard to rise above. For 3 months, I threw myself into my studies and work, trying to forget Kevin Mitchell ever existed. My best friend Carmen kept telling me I was better off without him, but those words he said kept playing in my head. Maybe I really was just fooling myself. Maybe I didn't belong in his world, after all. Then last Tuesday, my phone buzzed with a text message that made my blood run cold. It was from Kevin. "Hey Alicia, hope you're doing well. I'm having a promotion party this Saturday at the Grandview Hotel downtown. Would love for you to come celebrate with me. It would mean a lot." I stared at that message for a full 5 minutes. Carmen was overstudying, and when I showed her, she nearly threw my phone across the room. "Are you kidding me right now? This fool has the nerve to invite you to watch him celebrate after what he did to you." "Maybe he wants to apologize," I said. But even I didn't believe it. Girl, no. He wants to parade you around his new fancy friends so they can all see how much better he's doing now. He wants to show off his upgrade from you to Miss Rich Princess. Don't you dare give him that satisfaction. But something inside me couldn't let it go. Maybe it was pride, maybe it was curiosity, or maybe I just needed closure. Against Carmen's advice and my better judgment, I decided I was going to that party. I was going to walk in there with my head high and show Kevin that his words didn't break me. The problem was, I had about $50 to my name, and nothing appropriate to wear to a fancy hotel party. I spent Thursday afternoon at thrift stores, trying to piece together something that wouldn't scream, "Poor girl trying too hard." I found a simple black dress that fit well enough, and some shoes that only hurt a little bit. It wasn't much, but it was what I could afford. Friday morning changed everything, though I didn't know it at the time. I was running late for my morning class and stopped by this little coffee shop near campus that I never usually went to because it was too expensive. But I needed caffeine desperately, and it was on the way. I ordered my coffee, checked my phone, and started walking toward the door while reading an email from my professor. That's when I walked straight into someone and sent hot coffee all over his expensive-looking suit. Oh my God, I am so sorry. I started frantically grabbing napkins, trying to clean this man's jacket while apologizing over and over. I wasn't watching where I was going. I was reading my email. "I'm so stupid. Please let me pay for your dry cleaning." The man just stood there calmly while I dabbed at his suit, and when I finally looked up at his face, I was struck by how kind his eyes were. He was older than me, maybe mid-40s, with silver threading through his dark hair and the kind of presence that made you pay attention without him having to demand it. "Please, don't worry about it," he said in this warm voice, with just a hint of an accent. "It's just a suit. Are you burned?" The coffee was hot. I stopped my frantic cleaning and looked at him like he was speaking a foreign language. In my experience, when you accidentally mess up a rich man's clothes, you get yelled at, not asked if you're okay. "I'm fine," I said, still not quite believing his reaction. "But your suit will be fine too. I'm Antonio Rivera." He extended his hand like we were meeting at a business conference, instead of me having just dumped coffee all over him. "Alicia Thompson, and I really am sorry. Please let me pay for the cleaning. I know it probably costs more than I have, but I'll figure something out." Antonio smiled, and something about it made my shoulders relax for the first time in months. "Tell you what, Alicia Thompson, let me buy you another coffee, since yours ended up on me, and you can tell me what had you so focused on that email that you didn't see a whole person standing in front of you." I should have said no. I should have apologized again and left. But something about this man made me want to stay, so I found myself sitting across from him in a corner booth, telling a complete stranger about my MBA program and my thesis on economic development in underserved communities. Antonio listened like every word I said mattered. He asked thoughtful questions about my research, nodded when I talked about the challenges of working while in school, and never once made me feel like I was talking too much or boring him. When I mentioned that I grew up in the neighborhoods I was studying, he didn't give me that look I usually got, the one that mixed pity with surprise that I'd made it out. "Your research sounds fascinating," he said, after I'd been talking for 20 minutes. "Economic development is something I'm passionate about too, though from the business side. I'd love to read your thesis when it's finished." "What kind of business are you in?" I asked, realizing I'd been talking about myself the entire time. "Real estate development, some tech investments, a few restaurants. I try to focus on projects that benefit the communities they're built in, not just the investors." He said it so casually, like it wasn't a big deal. But something about the way he talked made me think his businesses were bigger than he was letting on. We talked for another hour about everything from community development to our favorite books. I found myself laughing more than I had in months. And when Antonio's phone buzzed with what was obviously an important call, I felt disappointed that our conversation was ending. "I hate to cut this short, but I have a meeting I can't reschedule," he said, standing up and putting on his coffee-stained jacket. Alicia, I know this might sound strange, since we just met, but I have a business dinner tonight that's going to be incredibly boring. And I could use someone intelligent to talk to. Would you be interested in accompanying me? My first instinct was to say no. I didn't know this man, and after Kevin, I wasn't exactly eager to put myself in situations where I might be judged or found wanting. But something about Antonio felt different, safe, maybe, or just genuine, in a way I wasn't used to. It's at the Grandview Hotel, he continued, and my heart nearly stopped. I know it's last minute, and you probably have plans. The Grandview Hotel, I interrupted. What time? 7:30. Is that a problem? I couldn't help but smile. Actually, it's perfect. I was already planning to be there tonight. Antonio looked surprised. Really? What a coincidence. Are you attending the Morrison Industries event too? Morrison Industries, Kevin's company. Of course, Antonio would be there for business, while Kevin was having his little promotion party in the same hotel. Something like that, I said. But I should warn you, I don't exactly have dinner at the Grandview close. That's easily solved if you're comfortable with it. I know a boutique owner who owes me a favor. Consider it my apology for the coffee situation in reverse. Before I knew it, I was saying yes to this kind stranger who had somehow managed to make me feel valuable again in the span of 2 hours. Antonio gave me the boutique address and told me to tell them he sent me. Get whatever makes you feel confident, he said. And Alicia, thank you. I haven't had a conversation that interesting in months. That afternoon felt like a fairy tale. The boutique owner, Isabella, treated me like royalty when I mentioned Antonio's name. She pulled dress after dress, shoes, accessories, even insisted on having her hair and makeup artist work with me. Antonio is a good man, she said, while zipping me into a stunning navy blue dress that fit like it was made for me. If he sent you here, you must be special. Looking at myself in the mirror, I barely recognized the woman staring back. The dress was elegant, but not flashy. The kind of thing that whispered class instead of screaming for attention. My hair was styled in soft waves. My makeup was flawless but natural. And for the first time in months, I felt beautiful. Isabella handed me a small clutch and a pair of heels that were somehow both gorgeous and comfortable. These are yours to keep, mi amor. Antonio already took care of everything. I tried to protest, but Isabella waved me off. Trust me, that man can afford it, and something tells me you deserve it. When the Bentley pulled up outside my mama's house at 7:15, I thought the driver had made a mistake. But then Antonio stepped out, looking incredible in a perfectly tailored tuxedo, and my heart did something funny in my chest. He smiled when he saw me, and I swear his eyes lit up. Alicia, you look absolutely stunning, he said, offering me his arm. Ready for the most boring business dinner of your life. Actually, I said, sliding into the back of the Bentley, I have a feeling this is going to be anything but boring. The ride to the Grandview took 15 minutes, and Antonio spent the time telling me about the other attendees I might meet, making sure I felt prepared and comfortable. He was so different from Kevin, who used to coach me on what not to say or do around his colleagues. Antonio seemed to trust that I could handle myself, and that confidence was infectious. There's something I should probably tell you, I said, as we pulled up to the hotel. My ex-boyfriend works at Morrison Industries. He's the one having the promotion party tonight. This whole thing is a bit more complicated than I initially let on. Antonio turned to look at me, and I braced myself for him to change his mind about bringing me. Instead, he just smiled. Alicia, I've been in business long enough to know that the best revenge is living well. If you're ready to show your ex what he gave up, I'm honored to be your escort tonight. The valet opened my door, and Antonio came around to offer me his hand. As I stepped out of that Bentley in my beautiful dress, feeling more confident than I had in years, I saw Kevin through the hotel's glass doors. He was standing in the lobby with Vanessa on his arm, probably waiting to greet his guests, and the look on his face when he saw me was worth every moment of pain he'd put me through. His mouth literally fell open. Vanessa followed his gaze, and I watched her grip his arm tighter, her perfect smile faltering for just a second. But I held my head high, took Antonio's arm, and walked into that hotel like I owned it. The lobby was full of Kevin's colleagues and their wives, all dressed up and holding cocktails. The conversations died down as we walked through, and I could feel the stares, hear the whispers starting up behind us. Antonio seemed completely unfazed by the attention, nodding politely at people he recognized and keeping me close to his side. Kevin approached us before we even made it to the elevator, Vanessa trailing behind him like a designer-dressed shadow. "Alicia," he said, and his voice sounded strained. "You came. You look different." "Hello, Kevin," I replied smoothly. "Congratulations on your promotion. This is Antonio Rivera, my date for the evening." I watched Kevin's face carefully as Antonio extended his hand with a polite smile. "Kevin Mitchell, right? I think I've seen your name on some reports that crossed my desk at Morrison. Nice to meet you." Kevin shook Antonio's hand, but I could see the confusion in his eyes. He was trying to place Antonio, figure out who he was and why he seemed familiar. Vanessa, meanwhile, was looking me up and down like she was trying to figure out how I could afford my outfit. "Antonio Rivera," Kevin repeated, and I saw the exact moment recognition hit him. His face went pale. You're the Rivera from Rivera Development Group." "Guilty as charged," Antonio said with a modest smile. Though I try not to let it go to my head, the silence that followed was deafening. Rivera Development Group wasn't just any company. They were one of the biggest real estate developers on the East Coast. I'd seen their name on buildings all over the city. And here was their CEO, standing in the Grandview Hotel lobby with his arm around me while Kevin tried not to hyperventilate. "Mr. Rivera," Kevin stammered, suddenly switching into full business mode. "It's such an honor to meet you. I had no idea you knew Alicia. How did you two meet?" "She spilled coffee on me this morning," Antonio said with a laugh, looking at me with genuine warmth. "Best thing that's happened to me all week." Alicia is brilliant. Her research on urban economic development is exactly the kind of forward-thinking work my company tries to support. I watched Kevin's world shift on its axis. 3 months ago, he'd called me ghetto trash, who would never amount to anything. Now here I was, being praised by one of the most successful businessmen in the city, who was looking at me like I hung the moon. The evening that followed was like a dream. Antonio introduced me to everyone as his colleague and friend, never once making me feel like arm candy or a charity case. When people asked about my work, he encouraged me to talk about my research, and I found myself having fascinating conversations with city planners, other business owners, and community leaders who were genuinely interested in my ideas. Kevin kept hovering at the edges of our conversations, trying to insert himself into discussions with Antonio, but it was clear that Antonio was more interested in talking to literally anyone else. When Kevin finally cornered him near the bar, I watched from across the room as Antonio listened politely for exactly 30 seconds before excusing himself and walking away. "He's not what I expected," Vanessa said, appearing beside me with a tight smile. She'd been watching me all night, and I could tell she was dying to say something catty. "Who, Antonio?" I asked innocently. "Your sugar daddy," she said, and I could hear the venom in her voice. "I mean, good for you, I guess. Not everyone can land a rich older man willing to dress them up and take them places." I turned to face her fully, and for the first time all night, I let my nice girl mask slip. "Vanessa, right? Kevin's told me so much about you. Well, actually, he's told me about your father's money and connections. I don't think he's ever mentioned anything you've actually accomplished yourself." Her smile disappeared completely. "Excuse me. You heard me. See, I know Kevin, and I know how his mind works. He didn't choose you because you're amazing. He chose you because of what your family can do for his career. That's gotta hurt, knowing you're just a stepping stone to someone else's success." Before she could respond, Antonio appeared at my side with 2 glasses of champagne. "Ladies, I hope you're having a good evening. Alicia, whenever you're ready, we can head to dinner." As we walked away, I felt lighter than I had in months. For the first time since Kevin broke up with me, I felt like myself again. Confident, intelligent, worthy of respect and admiration. Dinner was incredible. Antonio had reserved a private dining room where we could talk without interruption, and we spent 3 hours discussing everything from business to books to our dreams for the future. He told me about growing up poor in Chicago, working construction jobs to pay for college, building his first company from nothing. I told him about my childhood in the projects, my mama working 3 jobs to keep us afloat, my determination to create opportunities for other kids like me. "You remind me of myself at your age," he said over dessert. "Hungry, determined, but still kind. That's rare in business. Is that why you invited me tonight? Because I remind you of yourself?" Antonio was quiet for a moment, and when he looked at me, his expression was serious. "I invited you tonight because in 2 hours of conversation this morning, you impressed me more than most people do in months. You're brilliant, Alicia. You're passionate about work that matters. You're not afraid of hard challenges. And you're genuine in a world full of fake people. That's not charity, that's recognition." When we returned to the main party, it was winding down. Kevin was near the exit, clearly waiting to catch us before we left. His face was flushed from too much champagne and what looked like desperation. "Alicia, can I talk to you for a minute, alone?" Antonio squeezed my hand gently. "I'll be right over there when you're ready," he said, giving me the choice to handle this however I wanted. Kevin led me to a quiet corner, and for a moment, he looked like the man I used to love. "Alicia, I don't understand what's happening here. How do you know Antonio Rivera, and don't tell me you just met him?" "I told you the truth, Kevin. We met this morning when I spilled coffee on him." "Come on. Men like that don't just take random women to business dinners. What's the real story?" I looked at this man who had torn me apart 3 months ago, who had made me question my worth and my place in the world, and I felt nothing but pity. "The real story is that Antonio sees value in me that you were too small-minded to recognize. He sees my intelligence, my potential, my character. You saw only where I came from and decided that meant I wasn't worth your time. But Alicia, you have to understand, I was trying to build a career. I needed someone who could help me network, open doors, and I couldn't do that because I'm from the projects. That's not what I meant. That's exactly what you meant, Kevin. You looked at me and saw ghetto trash. Antonio looked at me and saw someone worth knowing. The difference isn't my background. It's your character." Kevin grabbed my arm, and his voice got desperate. "Wait, are you dating him? Is this serious?" I pulled my arm free and smiled. "That's not really your business anymore, is it? You made it clear 3 months ago that we're from different worlds. Tonight proved you were right. We are from different worlds. I'm from a world where people are judged by their character and their actions. You're from a world where people are valued for what they can do for you." I started to walk away, but Kevin called after me one more time. "You'll never really fit in his world, Alicia. You're still that poor girl from the projects, no matter how expensive your dress is." I turned back to him, and this time I was smiling for real. "You're right, Kevin. I am that poor girl from the projects. I'm also a woman who's about to finish her MBA, who's conducted research that could help transform communities across the country, and who just spent the evening talking to city leaders about economic development policy. I'm someone who earned the respect of a successful businessman, not by sleeping with him or using family connections, but by being intelligent and passionate about work that matters. If that's not good enough for your world, then your world isn't good enough for me." When I walked back to Antonio, he could probably see everything that had just happened written on my face. "Ready to go?" he asked gently. "More than ready." As we walked out of the Grand View Hotel, I felt like I was walking out of my old life and into something completely new. The Bentley was waiting for us, And as we drove through the city lights, Antonio reached over and took my hand. Alicia, I want you to know that tonight wasn't about proving anything to your ex-boyfriend. I genuinely enjoyed your company, and I'd like to see you again if you're interested. I looked at this kind, successful man who had treated me with more respect in one day than Kevin had shown me in 2 years, and I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time: hope. I'd like that too, I said. 6 months later, I'm finishing my MBA with a job offer from Rivera Development Group's Community Outreach Division. Antonio and I have been taking things slowly, building a relationship based on mutual respect and shared values. We talk about business and books and dreams for the future. He supports my goals and encourages my ambitions instead of seeing them as competition. Last week, Carmen showed me Kevin's LinkedIn profile. He's been demoted twice since that night at the Grandview. Apparently, after Rivera Development Group pulled their contracts with Morrison Industries. I don't know if Antonio had anything to do with that, and I've never asked. Some things are better left unknown. But here's what I do know. Kevin was wrong about almost everything, but he was right about one thing. We really were from different worlds. I was from a world where people work hard, treat others with kindness, and judge character over connections. He was from a world where people are valued only for what they can provide, where love is transactional, and where worth is measured by bank accounts and family names. I'm grateful he showed me the difference, even if it hurt at the time, because it led me to Antonio, to a career I'm passionate about, and most importantly, back to believing in my own worth. Sometimes the best revenge is simply becoming the person you were meant to be. If this story inspired you, smash that like button and subscribe for more stories about overcoming the odds. Drop a comment and tell me about a time someone underestimated you. I read every single one. Until next time, remember, your worth isn't determined by anyone but you.